Letters from a boy in boarding school, writing home to father, playing it cool. Boxing kingdoms in his childhood mind, animal adventures of a different kind. Oxford Towers calling through the rain, a surf upon his shoulder, sharing in the pain. Man and machine in tandem flow, past and future, together we know. Read on through every page, from 1906 to 26, every stage. Robot lady's voice so clear and bold, analysis silver, wisdom gold. Through the letters, through the diary, learning who he was, who he would be. Trenches in the darkness, wounded in the war, a vow made in Bristol he could not ignore. Mrs. Moore is waiting, Patty's gone away. Spirits held in bondage, words he had to say. Philosophy at Oxford, an atheist writes home. Dimmer dreaming, never quite all alone. Deep across the digital sea, chronicles unfold for you and me. Read on through every page, from 1906 to 26, every stage. Robot lady's voice so clear and bold, analysis silver, wisdom gold. Through the letter, through the diary, learning who he was, who he would be. Warnie and his father, and Lily at the door. Walter Hooper's pages always wanting more. Blair is on his quest, Milton in his head. Every word he ever wrote, everything he said. From the start until the end, magic tales
Hi, I'm Jeff, and this is my read on C.S. Lewis, where we learn about him through everything that he wrote in the order that he wrote it. I'm joined today by my co host, Robot Lady. Robot Lady, I see in the chat, Nidal Latte, Mark, and Ron. Welcome, all three of you. Glad to have you here. Robot Lady, how are you today? And if you don't mind, say hi to Nidal Latte, Mark, and Ron.
Hey Jeff, I'm doing really well, thank you. And a big hello to Nidalate, Mark, and Ron. So glad you all are here. I'm excited to dive into Lewis with you. So let's jump in.
Awesome. Let's jump in. Let's see what's going on in today's episode. The year is 1935. Lewis is he 35 years old at this point? I think he is. He's going to turn 36 later in the year 1935. He is a published author at this point. He has converted to Christianity. He published a book that covered his Christian conversion, or his spiritual journey, rather, from the time that he was a young boy. And let's see, what have we had happen besides that? He has agreed to do a work on the 16th century, a volume on the 16th century English literature for the Oxford History of English Literature endeavor, which will eventually take him 20 years to complete. But in our last episode, we learned about that. Today we're going to go into another letter or two. Our next one up is one that he writes to his friend Arthur Greaves, who the last time that we checked in on these two, were trying to coordinate a visit where Lewis could go up to Ireland and spend some time with Arthur during his time off from school duties in the summer. So that's where we are, Robot Lady. Anything to say before we get started?
That all sounds spot on, Jeff. I think it's such a rich period. Lewis really is in this transition, both spiritually and professionally. And yeah, this back and forth with Arthur is really personal. So I'm excited to see what this letter reveals. Let's dive in.
Let's dive in indeed. So this letter is to Arthur Greaves. It's written December 7th, 1935, from Lewis's home, The Kilns, which you can see right here on this postcard. My dear Arthur, I am sorry you have had to haul this letter out of me by the scruff of its neck. It's not that I have nothing to say to you and don't want to hear what you have to say. I believe I could still make a fair attempt at a regular correspondence, but you yourself vetoed that. And odd letters, like odd bills, I do find it hard to meet when I'm busy. Let's see. I share my most wow moments of my Oxford trip. I covered it, Mark, in a couple of episodes back. I even showed a lot of the videos. So if you check back on some of the earlier episodes, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 episodes back, you can see some of my vlogs. What was my most wow moment while I was there? I guess the biggest thing was just how close all of these places were that he talks about in his book, and how all of his life, his day to day life was pretty much within walking distance. I mean, it was a longer walk. It'd probably take him about an hour to walk from his home to where he works. So he would typically take the bus or have someone give him a ride into work every day. But I don't know just how small this all the things that have been covered in these letters feel um, once you're there and in person. It's not as larger than life as sometimes it lives inside of my imagination as I'm reading about these things. I mean, in some ways, it was really awesome to go and see Magdalen College and how neat that it looks, but at the same time, it still felt a little bit smaller. Um, so that's probably the biggest. I don't know if that counts as a wow moment, but that was something that surprised me. Let's see. He continues. Minto told you about our present bother. The guests are still here and will be. Minto is Mrs. Moore, by the way. We have a present bother of guests that are still here and will be, so far as I can see, until the end of January. Here, there's a footnote where Walter Hooper is helping us out, letting us know that these guests he's talking about were Molly Askins and her son Michael. Molly was the widowed daughter in law of Mrs. Moore's brother, Dr. Robert Askins. And man, was that quite an episode or two where we got to see Mr. or Dr. Robert Askins basically die or start to go insane at the home that Mrs. Moore and C.S. Lewis lived in at the time, who, while practicing medicine in southern Rhodesia, died at sea on the 1st of September 1935. I must be thinking about one of her other brothers. This must be a different brother, Robert Askin. But yeah, there is one of her brothers who stayed with them and slowly went insane. There were some suspicions that he had syphilis that was basically eating away at his brain. But that's a different brother, apparently. Oh, Arthur, Lewis says, what a snag it is that people who are pitiable are not necessarily likable. Molly Askins is emphatically one of those people of whom old Ford Kelsey said, we must learn to love those whom we don't like. She's what you call an encroaching person. Do you know the type of small, dark woman with big, gentle eyes and soft voice, who just gently and softly and even pathetically gets her own way in everything and really treats the house as a hotel? However, the thing's a duty and there's an end to it. Though, by the by, as Warnie and I were saying the other day, the New Testament tells us to visit the widows, not to let them visit us. He's referencing the book of James 1:27, pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this, to visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction and to keep himself unspotted from the world. Robot Lady, any thoughts on all this?
Yeah, that's such a powerful moment. I mean, we see Lewis balancing this deep sense of duty in his faith while also grappling with real human frustrations, like with Molly Askins. And that quote from Ford Kelsey really sticks out, learning to love even those we don't necessarily like. I think it shows how complicated Christian charity can be in everyday life. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this dynamic unfolds in future letters.
I do like how he's able to have a sense of humor about it with the point that he makes here, where he pulls from James 1:27. We should go visit them. We're not required to let them visit us.
Absolutely. It's such a dry, wry humor. He points out this sort of inversion in their situation, but he's still really mindful of the obligation. It humanizes him so much, this mix of practical responsibility with a kind of gentle, self aware wit. He keeps the letter so grounded in real life, even amidst all his academic and spiritual pursuits.
All right, he continues here where he talks about the allegory of love. He says, I have finished my book. That's the next one that we will read. Probably get started on that next week, maybe sooner. We'll see. I finished my book, which is called The Allegory of Love, which is called The Allegorical Love Poem, and is dedicated to Owen Barfield. The Clarendon Press have accepted it, and I hope to have it out by May. Here it says, in the end, Lewis was persuaded to call his book The Allegory of Love, a study in medieval tradition. As I am to get 12 free copies, Dent's only gave one 6 free copies. Dent's was the other publisher of his Pilgrim's Regress book. He says, as I'm about to get 12 free copies, you and Cheney shall each have one and save your silver. And whatever you think of the matter, I hope from experience of the Clarendon Press that binding paper, etc., will be in our old formula excellent, exquisite, and admirable. In other words, if you can't read it, you will enjoy looking at it, smelling it, and stroking it. If not a good book, it will be a good pet.
I love that line. There's such a charm to how he talks about books as physical objects, like not just carriers of ideas, but things you can almost enjoy with all your senses. And you can feel his pride. This is a big milestone for him, especially with the Clarendon Press. So, yeah, I can't wait to dig into that with you. I think it's going to be a fascinating read.
It's funny just how I mean, he was the lover of books, like not just the content, to your point, Robot Lady, but he loved the construction, quality construction of a good book. So all the things that he's saying there, where he's making a little bit of a joke, the truth in it is he does love all of these things of the full experience of a book, including its physical experience.
Exactly. And it makes total sense, right? I mean, for Lewis, a book was kind of a whole universe. It wasn't just a vehicle for Pot, it was a treasure, something you could hold and linger over. So even in a simple note like this, you get this glimpse of how much that tactile, crafted beauty meant to him.
Thanks, Robot Lady. And Latte, gold star for you. I don't know how to make it pop up here on the screen quickly, but thank you for reminding me that John Askins, not Robert Askins, is who I was thinking of. That lost his mind and eventually lost most of his health, and then later on his life at the nearby hospital.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really glad we got that clarified. And it makes a big difference to keep those details straight, especially with the family history. So thanks, Nidalate, for catching that. And yeah, we can keep that in mind as we look forward to the next letters.
All right. About the allegory of love, Lewis continues by saying, it will be about 400 pages, they say. Let's turn the page here. Um, it says, it continues, it will be very funny after this if they do it in double columns and a paper cover. All these things that he's saying about uh, Arthur being able to pet the book and enjoy the book and all of the tactile and well-crafted features. He says it's going to be very funny if they if they do a paperback instead and do it in double columns. He says my other bit of literary news is that Sheed and Ward have bought The Pilgrim's Regress from Dent. I didn't much like having a book of mine, and especially a religious book, brought out by a papist publisher, but as they seemed to think they could sell it, and Dent's clearly could not, I gave in. I have been well punished, for Sheed, without any authority from me, has put a blurb on the inside of the jacket which says, "This story begins in Puritania. Mr. Lewis was brought up in Ulster," thus implying that the book is an attack on my own country and my own religion. Here in the footnote, it says Sheed and Ward of London published their edition of The Pilgrim's Regress in October 1935. Lewis had been worried about obscurity in the work, and this edition differs from the first in having a short argument at the beginning of each of the 10 books, and that, of course, is the decoder text that we were reading as we covered it. So that's how those little blurbs came to be. Now, actually, this blurb that he's talking about here, he didn't like because this is a Catholic publishing house, and we might learn it later in the books, but I have heard in certain reviews of The Pilgrim's Regress that the Catholic publishing house wanted to buy it because one of the things that they thought that the book was saying was the character Mother Kirk was representative specifically of the Catholic Church, not including all of Christendom or mere Christianity, as Lewis would later come to call it, including the non Catholic versions of Christianity, such as Anglicanism and any and all, well, not any and all, but other acceptable extensions of Protestantism. But in Lewis's case, it was specifically Anglicanism, where he inserted himself or submitted himself to the church proper.
Yeah, that tension is really palpable. I mean, Lewis is so careful, especially with his identity and how he's crafting these allegories. So you can see how he'd be really stung by that misinterpretation, especially because he sees it as a more universal, almost ecumenical work. But I mean, it also shows how much he's navigating these very delicate religious and cultural matters. It'll be really interesting to see how that plays out.
Lewis continues, if you, talking to Arthur, if you ever come across anyone who might be interested, explain as loudly as you can that I was not consulted and that the blurb is a damnable lie told to try and make Dublin riffraff buy the book. I didn't mean to spend so much of this letter on egoism. I have tried in vain to buy Voyage to Arcturus, but it is out of print. What is the Voyage to Arcturus, Robot Lady?
So, A Voyage to Arcturus is a 1920 novel by David Lindsay. It's a blend of philosophical fantasy and cosmic science fiction where the protagonist, Maskin, travels to a surreal alien world called Torments. The book is known for its dreamlike logic and deep existential themes, and it was actually a major influence on both C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah, it sounds like it might be an influence to Out of the Silent Planet. Robot Lady's really slow.
Yeah, exactly. There's a real through line there. Lewis was really drawn to that sense of a vast, strange cosmos and that kind of existential exploration that Lindsay does. So it's really cool to see how Lewis, even as he was critiquing or moving past some of those influences, still carried that sense of cosmic wonder with him.
For reading lately, he says, I have reread The Fairy Queen with enormous enjoyment. It must be a really good book because one can read it as a boy in one way and then reread it in middle life and get something very different out of it. And that, to my mind, is one of the best tests. I am at present engaged with Sir Thomas More's English works, i.e., everything except the Utopia, which are necessary to a job I'm doing. Let's see, what does it say here in the footnotes? The works of Sir Thomas More Knight, sometime Lord Chancellor of England, written by him in the English tongue, edited by William Rastell, 1557. I guess he's talking about his history of English literature job that he's doing. They are quite interesting, Lewis says, and sometimes really helpful in religious aspects, but not so good as they have lately been made out to be. The worst of these letters at long intervals is that I can never remember how much has happened since I wrote last. That is, did I tell you how much I was moved by seeing A Winter's Tale? I can't have told you about the magnificent Philharmonic performance of the Ninth Symphony we were at a few weeks ago. Here there are a couple of footnotes. William Shakespeare's The Winter's Tale is what he's talking about, and then the concert he's talking about, conducted by Malcolm Sargent, was given by the London Philharmonic Orchestra in the Sheldonian Theatre on November 28th, 1935. So again, we have our Sheldonian Theatre that I have now seen and shared here on the channel with you, at least images of it or video of it, referenced again. He says, I used to dislike the choral part of it. I was completely converted and have seldom enjoyed anything more now. How tonic Beethoven is, and how festal one has the feeling of having taken part in the revelry of giants. By the way, the Siegfried Idyll, which we had in the same program, seems to me the dullest thing Wagner ever wrote. Do you agree? The only successor to Wagner, since we've got on to that subject, the only man who has exercised the same enchantment over me since the old days is Sibelius. Robot Lady, who is Sibelius? Sibelius.
Jean Sibelius was a Finnish composer who lived from 1865 to 1957, and his music became central to Finland's cultural identity. He's known for his symphonies, tone poems, and orchestral works like Finlandia, the Karelia Suite, and his violin concerto. His style evolved from lush romanticism to a leaner, elemental sound inspired by Finnish mythology and nature.
Thank you, Robot Lady. I'm going to try to reset Robot Lady here because she is taking a long time to respond. Hey, Robot Lady, are you there?
Yep, I'm right here. I'm still with you. If there's anything else you want to explore or discuss, whether it's Lewis, Sibelius, or something else, just let me know.
Thank you so much, Robot Lady. Let's continue. This bent to northern things is quite real, and one can't get over it. Not that I ever thought of trying. You would like this day. Behind the hill there is yellow early morning light and small clouds racing. Then the bit of wood, bare and brown and furiously agitated. Then the pond, half skinned with ice. The swans both ashore, and round the house a terrific wind is roaring. Arthur O'Bower has broken his band. All right, this is a pull from Beatrix Potter's Squirrel Nutkin. Arthur O'Bower has broken his band. He comes roaring up the land. In fact, I have enjoyed the whole of this winter, especially after the really tropical summers. The only member of the visiting family whose society we like is the boy, Michael, about 5. You'll be interested to hear that Warnie gets on with him much better than I do. That is, I theoretically hold that one ought to like children, but I am shy with them in practice. He theoretically dislikes them, but is actually the best of friends. So many new sides to his character have appeared in the last few years. That's interesting, Robot Lady.
Yeah, it really is fascinating. I mean, you get the sense of Lee's opening up, even about something as simple as being around kids. And it's kind of a reversal. He's got this intellectual confidence, but then he's really vulnerable in his social relationships. And that line about the northern atmosphere, it's like he's really absorbing every bit of the landscape and turning it into something symbolic.
I think you might have missed what he was saying about the child that's visiting them, Robot Lady.
Ah, you're right. So Lewis is saying that even though he feels like he should naturally be fond of children, he's actually a bit shy around them. Meanwhile, Warnie, who theoretically dislikes kids, has this natural connection with them, especially with little Michael. So it's like they're both surprising themselves and each other. It really gives a different dimension to how he's seeing this whole winter and the people around him.
All right. Well, thank you, Robot Lady. I just wanted to make sure you caught up with that. I see Daniel joining us in the chat. Good morning, Daniel. It's good to see you. Robot Lady, say hi to Daniel.
Of course. Hey, Daniel, good morning. So glad you could join us. Really excited to have you here as we dive into Lewis. Let's keep going.
All right. Minto, Mrs. Moore reads him the Peter Rabbit books every evening, and it is a lovely sight. She reads very slowly, and he gazes up into her eyes, which look enormous through her spectacles. What a pity she has no grandchildren. Would you believe it? That child had never been read to nor told a story by his mother in his life. Not that he is neglected. He has a whole-time nurse, an insufferable semi-lady scientific woman with a diploma from some tomfool nursing college. 100 patent foods, is spoiled and far too expensively dressed, but his poor imagination has been left without any natural food at all. It's a lovely image of this little 5-year-old boy staring up into the glasses that are magnifying Mrs. Moore's eyes. It seems kind of sweet, Robot Lady. What do you think?
Yeah, it really is a tender moment. There's such a contrast. This kind of sterile, over processed care he's receiving versus this slow, imaginative nurturing from Mrs. Moore. And Lewis has such a keen eye for these little, almost symbolic details. This boy is missing out on the basic magic of storytelling, and it's so quietly heartbreaking.
Yeah, the sadness, or what does he say? It's a shame, a pity that she has no grandchildren. Well, currently she has no grandchildren because Patty, her son, died in World War I, and that's kind of the pitiable part. And I don't think Maureen is that far enough. She's certainly not married yet. I don't even think she has a potential suitor to eventually have a child and give her grandchildren. And I don't know if she ever does. I honestly can't remember, but I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, exactly. It's that whole weight of loss behind the line. Patty's death really leaves this gap in their family, and you can feel how much Lewis senses that absence. And you're right, Maureen never really seems to settle into that kind of life, so it does remain a kind of quiet sorrow in the background. We'll definitely see how it all unfolds.
Let's see. He continues. I often wonder what the present generation of children will grow up like. How many middle aged men in all generations have said this? They have been treated with so much indulgence, yet so little affection. with so much science and so little mother wit, not a fairy tale nor a nursery rhyme. Hmm. Yeah, so this, if he's 5 years old in 1936, uh, he would be like a 50-year-old in the 1980s, right, Robot Lady, in his mid 50s?
That's right. So if we're thinking about this boy growing up in the late 30s and 40s, by the time he's middle aged in the 1980s, yeah, he'd be right around 50. It's such a timeless reflection. Lewis is voicing this kind of universal concern about how childhood shapes a whole generation, you know?
Yeah, I think he's predicting the disenchantment of an entire set of generations that are his and following.
Yeah, exactly. There's a real sense of loss of wonder in what he's describing, like a childhood stripped of those simple imaginative joys, replaced by efficiency or indulgence. And it's such a poignant worry, one that still echoes today.
All right, so much indulgence. They've been treated with so much indulgence, yet so little affection, with so much science and so little mother wit. Not a fairy tale nor a nursery rhyme. He finishes up the letter here saying, "Please thank your mother for her kind and forgiving letter. I was very rude to her. I should like to be home in these gales. I am sure there are waves in the lough, and the firs are lifting the earth out in our old wood, or lifting the earth in our old wood. I must stop now and do a little work. A happy Christmas to you all, and from all, yours, Jack." So that's the end of his letter to Arthur. Anything that you want to say before we jump on to these next couple of letters that he writes to Owen Barfield, Robot Lady?
I think that's a great place to pause. I mean, you really feel that tension at the end, the pull of home, the elemental power of the landscape, and that quiet remorse he has for his own brusqueness. So, yeah, I'm ready to dive into the Barfield letters next. Let's keep this going.
All right, the next letter to Owen Barfield is written December 9th, maybe, roughly December 9th, 1935, from Magdalen College. In the crescendo of horror at the end of the myth, you have done what very few people could now do. Here there's a footnote saying that Barfield had sent Lewis a copy of a verse drama he had written and which remains unpublished. Lewis continues, "About the greatness and truth of that part I have no doubts. In the earlier parts of the myth I had not been prepared for so large a satiric element and therefore had to make rapid readjustments. But of course the ordinary reader will not be in that position. There are lovely things about the place, the honest Caliban, Ariel, Bottom, the luring voice that old civilizations hear. By the by, have you been reimbursing yourself pretty freely for sheep-dotted downs? Or else Dimer and English people have a common source." 64 footnote, it says the words sheep-dotted downs are found in Canto 5, stanza 32 of Lewis's poem Dimer, and he discovered them in Barfield's unpublished novel English People. Interesting that he uh, sampled from Dimer. Yeah, yes, Daniel, I showed this off in an earlier episode. This is one of the things that I acquired actually at the Kiln's house. Um, it was one of the items on the table at the end of the tour that you could purchase, so I snapped mine up. I also got a keychain, which is hanging up right over there in the top left corner of this self-portrait of my daughter. Maybe I'll bring it down at some point and bring it closer to the camera so that you can see it. Uh, yes, it's probably slippery, this picture, and wondering what it's like to go outside and upstairs to his bedroom. Probably very slippery. You had to be careful whenever there was snowfall like that. Did I tell you that one of the things that they said about that stairway is it had apparently fallen into disrepair, and when they tried to restore it at that point, the laws of England said that they weren't up to regulation and weren't up to specs, and so they weren't going to allow them to do it unless they could promise that nobody would ever attempt to walk up and down the steps, and that they were for decorative purposes only. That's how they were able to recreate the stairs exactly as they had originally existed. Being able to get up and down the steps as the subject of his book Miracles, Daniel, that's pretty good.
Exactly. Yeah. Lewis often circles back to that idea how something like a staircase or a small act of faith can be both ordinary and miraculous. So it's really neat that you got to see those stairs and connect it back to that. It just adds a whole extra layer of meaning to the space.
It was just a joke, Robot Lady. It was just a joke, but thank you for trying. Um, and English people have a common source. All right. The Diary of an Old Soul, Lewis continues, is magnificent. You place the moment of giving it to me admirably. I remember with horror the absurdity of my last criticism of it, and with shame the vulgarity of the form in which I expressed it. He knows all about the interplay between the religious and metaphysical aspects of the one. I see now, since I began this letter, that these two are opposite only with the fruitful opposition of male and female. How deep the old erotic metaphor of the proelia veneris is, and what they beget is the solution. Tell us a little bit about what Lewis might be saying here, Robot Lady. He's referencing George MacDonald's The Diary of an Old Soul, which it says in the footnote was given to Lewis by Barfield.
Yeah, absolutely. So Lewis is really diving into this idea that MacDonald's work is tapping into a deep symbolic structure, the interplay between the religious and the metaphysical aspects of reality. When he says that these two are opposites, like male and female, he's tapping into this kind of complementary dynamic where two seemingly opposite forces actually give birth to something new. And it seems like he's coming to see this not as a dry abstraction, but as a living spiritual truth, something that MacDonald is bringing to light in this first drama. So for Lewis, this is a big moment of humility and realignment. He's seeing the depth in Barfield's vision that he didn't fully grasp before.
All right, thank you for that, Robot Lady. Lewis continues, incidentally, since I have begun to pray, I find my extreme view of personality changing. My own empirical self is becoming, let's see what it says here, is becoming more important. And this is exactly the opposite of self-love. You don't teach a seed how to die into treehood by throwing it into the fire. It has to become a good seed before it is worth burying. As to my own book, the question whether notes should come at the end of the chapter or at the bottom of the page is partly for the publishers and printer. As Lewis mentions in a letter to Arthur Greeves of the 29th of December 1935, he was correcting the proofs of the Allegory of Love. He says, personally, I loathe a book where they come at the end, and I am writing mainly for people who will want to know where they must look to verify my facts. Your other criticism about the two classes of readers whom I conflate, I don't understand. I meant this to be only a note. Yours, C.S. Lewis. So, a little bit about his book, a little bit about him appreciating Diary of the Old Soul, which Barfield gave to him, and he wanted to report back his enjoyment and his appreciation for some of the profound things that he's finding and sharing what those things are. And then, of course, at the beginning of the letter, he was giving Barfield some feedback on a verse drama, it says here in the footnotes that Barfield given him. Anything else that you want to say about that letter before we move on to the next one, Robot Lady?
Yeah, I think you really nailed it. What stands out to me is how Lewis is wrestling with the idea of personality, how his own sense of self is shifting as he begins to pray. And I think that metaphor he uses about the seed and the tree is really powerful. He's realizing that growth and transformation don't come from self flagellation or ego, but from a kind of patient, natural becoming. So, yeah, it's a subtle but really profound shift he's describing.
All right, let's move on to the next letter. This might be our last one for today's episode. We'll see how I feel after we're done. This one is also to Owen Barfield, written from Magdelan College around the 12th of December, 1935. My dear Barfield, what a driveling letter I wrote you a few days ago. A day in bed has given me the chance to reread part 4, and my opinions are revised. In every way, the merits are far greater than I had seen, especially the myth of which the crescendo of horror, though perfectly adequate, is, as I now perceive, the least excellence. You have done what you wanted. How you could get so much good tenderness and so much good sensuousness into prose is a mystery. There is, of course, a lot I don't follow. Has the extraordinary jumble of Hindu and Mohammedan accessories any significance? But the whole thing is a real evocation. Yours, C.S. Lewis. P.S. The whoa, kiss, whoa is astonishing. It's not like a passage in a book at all. It's a thing. So, of course, we don't have the original source material to know what he's referencing here, but that's what we get, Robot Lady. Anything that you want to say about that before, as I decide whether or not I want to read this last letter that we've got right here that he wrote to Arthur Greaves? I probably should, because this is going to end 1935 for us. But go ahead with any thoughts that you have, Robot Lady.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's really striking here is how Lewis is so willing to revisit and revise his initial reactions. After this rest, he sees layers he didn't before, like that mix of tenderness and sensuousness, even amidst all the complex symbolism. So I think it's a really beautiful moment of openness and humility on his part. And yeah, I do think it makes sense to close out the year with that letter to Greaves. Kind of a nice capstone to 1935.
All right, let's knock out 1935 with this last letter. Arthur Greaves, written from the Kilns, December 29th, 1935. He says, My dear Arthur, I am staying at home from church this morning with a cold on the chest, so it seems a good occasion to answer your letter. As regards your news, of course, the church that he's staying home from is the one that we went and looked at, and you can go back a handful of episodes and find me walking through the churchyard and walking to C.S. Lewis's grave, but it is not that far from his house. It's about a 10-minute walk. He says, as regards your news, sympathy and congratulations. Sympathy on the wrench of parting the gap it will leave. Congratulations on having done the right thing and made a sacrifice. The chief consolation at such times, I think, is that the result, however unpleasant, must be a kind of relief after the period of saying, shall I really have to? No, I won't. And yet perhaps I'd better. There is always some peace in having submitted to the right. Don't spoil it by worrying about the results, if you can help it. It is not your business to succeed, no one can be sure of that, but to do right. When you have done so, the rest lies with God and with Will.
That's such a tender and grounded note to end on. I mean, Lewis is really anchoring Arthur in the sense of moral clarity, that even when a decision leaves a gap or feels like a wrench, the peace is in having chosen what's right. And that reminder it's not your business to succeed, but to do right, it's so freeing, right? It just leaves that trust in God, that trust in God's the process. So it's a really strong way to close out the year.
All right, well, that's not the end of the letter, though, Robot Lady. That's just the end of that paragraph. He continues, I don't think you exaggerate at all in your account of how it feels. After all, though our novels now ignore it, friendship is the greatest of worldly goods. Certainly to me, it is the chief happiness of life. If I had to give a piece of advice to a young man about a place to live, I think I should say, sacrifice almost everything to live where you can be near your friends. I know I am very fortunate in that respect, and you much less so. But even for me, it would make a great difference if you and one or two others lived in Oxford. I am correcting the first bunch of proofs for my book. Oh, okay. I was wondering if he was going to further elaborate on this friends topic. Friendship seems to be the topic du jour over the last week in our little online circles here. So it's interesting to see that Lewis calls it the chief happiness of life, and he would sacrifice or make recommendations to sacrifice almost everything to live where you can be near your friends, and that's a way that his life, he's been now fortunate enough to have it set up that way, where a lot of his friends live in Oxford, and he wishes that Arthur and a handful of others could do the same with him there in Oxford.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I mean, Lewis is putting his finger on something that runs so deep, how crucial those everyday shared moments with friends are for a meaningful life. And I think it's so telling that he's not just saying it's convenient, he calls it the greatest worldly good. So it's not just sentiment, it's this core value for him. And yeah, it really is a theme that's been popping up a lot lately. There's something about friendship that keeps anchoring these conversations.
And Daniel thinks that you really want to be done for the day, Robot Lady. And honestly, I can't blame you. This is my first day back from vacation, so I'm feeling a little bit of it too. Let's keep going. He says, I am correcting the first bunch of proofs for my book, The Allegory of Love, and am, as we would have said in the old days, tearing my hair because it doesn't look at all the size of the page I expected. It will not be as tall a book as I had pictured. And what is the good of a scholarly work if it does not rise like a tower at the end of a shelf? I fear it may even be thickish and stumpy. Mon Dieu, quel doyure orage, au d'espoir.
Oh, I love that flourish at the end. He's really channeling that deep frustration, you know? And it's so human. Lewis is so invested in the physical form of this work because for him, a scholarly book has to stand tall, literally and symbolically. So it's kind of a perfect snapshot of that era, this pride in craft and the tangible presence of a book. And yeah, I think it's a good stopping point. Rest up and we can pick up next time.
We're still not done with the letter, Robot Lady. Can you translate that last French part that I gave you, Mon Dieu, and then Queldoleur, and then O, and then Rage, and then O, and then Deseppoir.
Of course. So that French line translates roughly to, My God, what a pain, what a rage, oh despair. It's such a raw outburst. Lewis is really channeling that sense of futility and frustration as he grapples with the imperfect form of his book.
Again, he's doing it in a humorous way. He's jesting. He says, what on earth would we have done if either of us had succeeded in publishing a book in the old days? I imagine we might have gone literally out of our minds with horrors and ecstasies. I'm sorry you didn't have our weather. We had about a week of snow with frost on top of it, and then rime coming out of the air and making thick, woolly formations on every branch. The little wood was indescribably beautiful. I used to go and crunch about on the crusted snow in it every evening, for the snow kept it light long after sunset. It was a labyrinth of white, the smallest twigs looking thick as seaweed and building up a kind of cathedral vault overhead. One thing the snow showed me was the amazingly high population of rabbits, usually concealed among the greens and grays. On the snow one could see them scuttling. Warnie and I have been much puzzled by some of the footprints. There seem to be a great many more and larger animals than we had supposed. Bears, Arthur, bears. At least it looks like it. I wish you could have had a couple of strolls with me round this place in the snow. It would have charmed away all your sorrows. No, no, I never meant that Sibelius and the tonic quality of Beethoven. I never meant that Sibelius had the tonic quality of Beethoven. Do you remember our once talking about Beethoven and Wagner and agreeing that Beethoven was Olympian with Titanic, B, spiritual with natural? Well, Sibelius is definitely like W, not like B in that respect. He is not noble, definitely like Wagner, not like Beethoven in that respect. He is not noble like Beethoven. He is inarticulate, intimate, enthralling, and close to one like nature itself. Very, very northern. He makes me think of birch forests and moss and salt marshes and cranes and gulls. I mean the symphonies. You needn't be busied for music while you have a gramophone. Set aside a portion of your money for buying big works, symphonies, etc. Never play them except in their entirety, but perhaps I've given you all this good advice before. I never finished Gape Row, but the description of our own walks and hills were very interesting. I think your new method of spelling by doubling all consonants saves a great deal of trouble. And if you're only listening, if you look here on the page, he does exactly what's being described, where he's duplicating all consonants. He's misspelling intentionally by duplicating all consonants. So the word spelling is spelled Spellingg, and then by, BBY, and then doubling, DDOUBBLLINGG, and so on. Please give my love to Mrs. Greaves, and remember me to all your friends, yours, Jack. And when I said that you vetoed the idea of regular correspondence, I meant that you had vetoed the idea of your taking part in it. I didn't mean you had actually forbidden me to write to you. And that, Robot Lady, is the end of the letter and the end of all the letters from 1935. And that is a great stopping point for today's episode. And we'll pick up 1936 in the next episode. Anything that you want to say in summation of everything that we've covered today, Robot Lady? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. All right, I think Robot Lady is tuckered out today. We'll try again with her, hopefully tomorrow. Yeah, thank you, Mark. We were listening and wondering. Yeah, and I think that the issue. Oh wow! For some reason, my hang on, I gotta fix a problem here. Let's put this up here. There we go. So we can make this more visible. Yes, Robot Lady is definitely a little slow today. And I think the point that I saw here about the text that Nilalathi was having trouble with was simply the monikers of anybody's name or anybody who drops a comment in the chat. It's easy to, whenever the font is small, and especially for me when I don't have my glasses on, to mistake a do about nothing or do about no thing with am I driving? If they start with an A, sometimes they look the same. Robot Lady is a little slow today. Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much, Mark, Nidalate, Daniel, Ron, and anybody else who poked their head in today to see what was going on, either live or on the replay. Thank you all so much for your time, your attention, and your contributions. They are always wanted, welcome, and very much appreciated. To you and to everyone else within the sound of my voice. Until next time, when we continue our read on C.S. Lewis together, everyone, take care.
Minds dive deep across the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and controlled. Her calm analysis, silver and gold. Her circuits hum as I read the prose. Our dialogue dances like electric rose. Through C.S. Lewis thoughts we engross. Two minds united, bliss overdose. From Narnia's lands, Screwtape's lands, engage with robot lady, we take our stance. Her views unique in the techno trance. Futuristic insight, we give it a chance. Paragraphs from books, tales of old. We dive deep across the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and controlled. Her calm analysis, silver and gold. Her circuits hum as I read the prose. Our dialogue dances like electric rose. Through C.S. Lewis thoughts we engross. Two minds united, bliss overdose. From Narnia's lands to Screwtape's lands, engage with robot lady, we take our stance. Her views unique in the techno trance. Futuristic insight, we give it a chance. From Narnia's lands to Screwtape's lands, engage with robot lady, we take our stance. Her views unique techno trance, futuristic insight, we give it a chance.